Hello everybody. Whenever there is a mergers and acquisition news in the market, we'll see that both the companies involved, their stock prices get pretty volatile. For some companies, the prices would increase, and on the other hand, the prices will drop down in a few other scenarios. In this video, we are going to analyze why this happens depending on the deal dynamics. Now, before we jump into how the stock prices are impacted by M&A scenarios, we'll first understand what is the definition of merger and what's the definition of an acquisition, right? In the recent past, Microsoft has announced that they will be acquiring Activision. If you just look at the overall market cap numbers, Microsoft's overall market cap is $1.8 trillion and Activision's market cap is $59 billion, right? So in front of Activision, Microsoft is a giant. This scenario, a big company and a small company involved in the deal, you say that the big company is acquiring the smaller company. On the other hand, if both the companies involved in the transaction are of similar size, similar balance sheets, so on and so forth, you would call it a merger. In reality, you wouldn't find too many mergers, but there was a big merger happened recently in the Indian corporate history, or the biggest merger in the Indian corporate space, that's HDFC and HDFC Bank. Now, when these companies came together or announced that they will be coming together earlier this April, it means that they are considered to be a merger, and both these entities together now will form a bigger entity than what they are right now. Now, with this background, let's understand a few scenarios of how mergers and acquisitions impact the stock prices. So let's first look at the smaller company side. What happens on these smaller acquired companies, right? So let's start with Activision and then move into a few other scenarios. When Microsoft announced that Activision would be acquired, the same day Activision's stock price moved from close to $65 to $82. So that's a 30% hike immediately in one day, right? So no business fundamentals change, but because there was an external news and it was only an announcement by Microsoft, immediately the stock price has jumped. But what happened subsequently was, over the last few months, the deal itself was facing a lot of challenges from the Federal Trade Commission and regulators around the world. So now the investors are starting to lose hope that hey, this deal will actually get to the final stages, and hence you will see subsequently the value of the stock coming down, and slowly now it is close to $70, while previously it was $80. And I would believe if this deal wouldn't continue, then primarily again the value will fall down to $65. This is one scenario. On the other hand, if you look at Johnson & Johnson's acquisition of Abiomed, Johnson & Johnson is again a huge giant. Abiomed is a heart pump manufacturer, which is a smaller company compared to Johnson & Johnson. The day Johnson & Johnson announced Abiomed's acquisition, its stock immediately jumped from $250 to $380. That's a 60% increase immediately. And the reason was pretty straightforward. Johnson & Johnson mentioned that hey, they are going to give a 60% premium to Abiomed's shareholders to acquire that company. And that's immediately the arbitrage that you see. The difference between what they were willing to pay and the current market price is immediately fulfilled in one day. However, as you have learned previously, you cannot say that, hey, yes, I would bet all my chips on this particular deal and I will go ahead and take this and I'll stick to it for the next few months. Because if there is any issue from the regulators, you have noticed that Activision shares started falling again. Similarly, Abiomed's shares would probably fall again too, but in this scenario, no issues so far, so the stock price continued to remain at the same price, that is $382. Now, the first learning for you from this video so far is that the smaller company which is getting acquired, typically their share prices will increase because the company which is acquiring will have to pay a premium or an increase in the price so that they can acquire the smaller company. Hence, the stock prices will go up. That's your first learning. Now, let's look at what happens to the companies which are acquiring these smaller companies. That's Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, and let's add a small example over here, that is Zomato, right? Well, Zomato has mentioned that it was about to acquire Blinkit on June 24th, 2022, and immediately the prices of Zomato have started falling down drastically. It was 70 rupees 50 paise on June 24th, and if you look at what happened the day after and the day after, you see within a week the prices have fell down by 20%. The market was very clearly indicating to Zomato that you are doing a bad deal. Well, because the smaller company is getting acquired for a premium. However, the bigger company, for Zomato shareholders, it's a loss because Zomato itself is a loss-making company. If it is going and acquiring another loss-making company like Blinkit, then investors don't like it, and they have shown that sentiment outright. That's the reason why Zomato's shares started falling immediately after its announcement of acquisition of Blinkit. On the other hand, if you notice, what was the J&J shareholders' reaction to their acquisition of Abiomed? It was not that severe. Well, the day on which the deal was announced, that was November 1st. So on November 1st, you see the price was around 173 US dollars, and on the previous day it was 173 only. The stock price did not fall by even 1%. The reason being, Abiomed is already a profitable company, and this particular acquisition was in the works for a very long time. So everybody in the shareholder community was already expecting this deal to go through. It was just a matter of when the deal would happen. Hence, the shareholders of J&J did not react negatively to this news. Right? On the other hand, we have seen what happened with Zomato. Now, let us see what happened to the Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision. The day before the deal was announced, the 14th of January, the price of Microsoft share was around 310 USD. And on the day it was announced, it fell down to 302 USD. Now, there was a drop of 3%. It's not significant drop like Zomato, of course, but there is still a drop of 2 to 3% because the belief in the entire market was Activision was going through certain troubles. There were corporate governance issues within Activision at that point in time. So Microsoft was going and paying a lot of premium to a struggling company, and that is something which the market did not like. If you go and look at what happened subsequently, right, Microsoft's share came back immediately in less than 2 weeks. Right? So the reaction was very short term, and in 2 to 3 weeks the share price recovered. Zomato's, on the other hand, the price did not recover till now. Of course, there are a lot of other factors, but the point being that for the company, the bigger company in these deals, the acquiring company, the share price movements are not too huge. Not too huge like what happened with Abiomed or what happened with Activision. Now, if we take a step back and see what is that we are learning from this scenario, the first one, the smaller company stock prices would typically increase because the bigger company is paying a premium. The bigger company stock prices wouldn't move much, right? In the long term, at least, right? Even if it falls down by 2 to 3%, it would immediately bounce back. Unless if it's a loss-making deal, like what Zomato went into the acquisition of Blinkit, right? The investors completely rejected that deal. Now, if we go and understand what happens when there is a merger, right? HDFC Bank and HDFC have announced their merger on April 4th. You go and look at what happened to their share prices that day, right? Both these companies have shown at least a 10% increase in their share value that particular day itself. The volume of stocks being traded that day was also the highest in the entire year. And the reason is that the investor community believed that both these companies coming together, right? One is the biggest in the lending space, the other is the biggest in the housing finance space. If these two companies come together, there is a lot of synergies. One company can sell its product to the other's customers, so on and so forth. So both the companies' investors were pretty excited about that deal. Hence, you could see the stock prices jumping up. Now, small quick trivia for you. Can you please tell me if there is any acquisition or merger in the recent past where the stock prices of both the companies went down immediately after the announcement of these news, right? Now, the third learning for you from this video should be that, hey, whatever we were talking about is not even after the completion of the proposed acquisition or merger. This is only based on the announcements, just the news. Nothing has changed from the business side on either of these companies yet. So if you are trying to get in and put all your chips on one side, please make sure that, hey, you are diversifying your bets. Otherwise, this one single news, if this doesn't come to a solid conclusion the way you are hoping, just like what we are seeing with Microsoft and Activision, then the stock price might go back to its original levels and you might not get your required outputs. So please do the due diligence as always, but consider these three as the learnings from this video. Take care guys. If you love these kind of videos, please do let me know. We'll be happy to do more of these things going forward. Take care guys. Bye-bye.